We'll open with the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody have any announcements? So one last reminder to re-sign up for your Basic Star. It's a new thing that you didn't have to do previously, but if you want the benefits of your Basic Star tax exemption, you do have to go on the website and sign up for that. Anybody have announcements? All right. So approval for prior minutes, November 18th was the adoption of the budget, and then the November 25th board meeting. Motion and second to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Second?
All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, so moved. It's not 7 o'clock. I think we opened the public hearing at 7, continuation for the local law to establish the Office of the Single Appointed Assessor pursuant to Real Property Tax Law 328, so I will wait until 7 p.m. for that. It is a holdover, so. Anybody have presentations tonight? Liaison reports?
The only thing I want to say is somebody decided to go down and chop down a pine tree at the pool and then top it for their Christmas tree. And so we have a felled tree that now has, it's lying there. And so whoever did that, we don't appreciate it. And if you really need money that bad, we'll buy you a tree. So
Can we replant it for?
it's going to take a long time. It was about a 30-foot tree.
Oh, that's horrible. A white pine?
I don't know what kind, but.
All right. Move on to some business items. We have 10 minutes to go.
I can give a couple updates, I'm
Sure.
sorry. Tech with the county grant, still a couple of hoops. Where's the mayor that I have to jump through to get the money? Sent in a big answering this week. I'll follow up with Owen Rafter's office and our county executive if need be, and I'll reach out to you and let you know where we are. I think I did copy you on all the information I sent, but they keep asking us more questions, so we keep coming up with more answers to get the check.
Keep coming up with the answers.
Yeah, well, we're trying. Board of Assessment Review, we do have a seat open that doesn't really heat up until May, and I guess we'll deal with it in our reorganization period. And also, last week, I attended a meeting in Red Hook with some other, the town of Red Hook, the village of Rhinebeck. I don't believe Tivoli was represented to talk about our Time Warner contract, and we're discussing what we can do and what other options there are. So the 5 municipalities are working on that together. And I wanted to thank the supervisor of Red Hook, Sue Crane, for spearheading the meeting.
And our Rhinebeck resident, Alan Schur, has been very helpful in investigating that whole thing.
Yes, he has.
Any further?
We'll talk about affordable housing. We have it on as a discussion item later.
Sounds good. All right, item 1 for business will be a resolution approving abstract 12 vouchers V1162 to V1208, 41 checks for $55,013.09.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item 2 is a resolution approving the preliminary capital project for 2013, abstract 4 checks for $6,603.33.
Motion.
A second.
Aye.
Any discussion on that? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Item 3 is approving the budget transfers and amendments. Motion and second.
Motion.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4 is a resolution approving the town hall use application for the Rhinebeck Garden Club. That's for May 28th, 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. Motion and second. I'm sorry, and also March 28th. same
Motion.
time.
Second?
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Could we give them a shout out for their decorations too? I think they're really nice.
Item 4 is a resolution approving the town hall use for, I'm sorry, just did that. Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the replacement of the highway department truck. Motion and second.
Second, a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? So
I'm abstaining because I told you why. I haven't seen the latest finances, so.
Well, we have the October finances.
Sorry. If I don't see current, based on the assumptions, I'm not going to do it.
But as of October, the financials show that we have about 56,000 left over from the road improvements. We're not doing any more road improvements because the weather is too cold, and Kathy assures us that we will have that amount at the end of the year when we close the books. So what she is proposing is that we would use that money that we saved by buying the paver and rebuilding it to pay for a truck. So it seems that it makes sense. The truck has 88,000 miles, and it's used, and it's, 4 years after it should have been replaced under normal retention policies. So seems to make sense since we have the money to do it and not have to face a lot of replacement equipment all in 1 year.
And we've done the trade-off on the payments for the other new trucks, whether it makes more sense to apply that money there.
Yes,
Okay.
as liaison, I did ask Kathy why this truck as opposed to another truck. Here we can buy the whole truck, not part of a truck. And Kathy says that this is the number one thing, although she cautions that we can have surprises with other trucks. We all know that number 11, we are on a wing and a prayer with that, and that could go at any time, but our our 10-wheeler hopefully will be here very soon, so that will provide pulling power if we have an emergency with another truck that breaks down. So maybe we can vote on this, and then maybe I can...
We did vote.
We already voted.
Oh, okay.
It's passed.
It's done.
Can I ask Kathy a question? Where are we with the other trucks that we've ordered? When do we expect them?
We're waiting. There was one hitch, pun intended. There was a hitch with the hitch. So that's holding up the one truck. We're waiting for the cabs and chassis have arrived. We're waiting for the plumbing and the bodies and the outfitting that has to happen. And one piece had to be refabricated in order to make it work on the 6-wheeler. So I expect that we will probably get the 10-wheeler first, right, Bob? Is that what you would imagine as well? Oh, you think so? Okay. But, we're waiting, and any day, believe me, no one's more anxious than I am to get them in our hot little hands. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
All right, so moved. Item 6 is a holdover. Item 7 will be a resolution authorizing the annual 284 agreement for the expenditure of the highway monies for 2014.
Can I just explain, Tom, why we're holding over the resolution to appoint the members to the Ethics Board? Is because we are required to not have any one party have a supermajority on the Ethics Board. So we have one other party that we're interviewing for that, and we just want to make sure we have the proper balance. So that's why that's being held over.
Motion and second.
Motion?
A second.
Any discussion on the item 7?
No.
Want to talk?
I just want to explain what it is really for the audience. I think the board certainly knows. The 284 agreement, really, the state law requires that the monies to be spent on highway improvements be filed with the county. And the numbers that are before you in the 284 agreement reflect the budget that was already approved. This is really just a formality of the form that gets filed with the county recording that.
All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Item 8 is a resolution approving the Bell copier contract.
Motion?
Second?
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
The copier, the new copier, just doing the contract.
Item 9 is a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign a planning and engineering agreement with LRC Engineering and Surveying, PC. This is for the waterfront grant project. Motion and second.
Motion?
This is for the Rhinecliff waterfront grant concept project, whatever, right? Right. Any discussion on it?
Yeah, I just suggest that maybe in the resolution, we just say, the supervisor's authorized on behalf of the town to execute in substantially the form attached, the agreement, just in case there are some last-minute changes after I review it. So, if we can so amend that, John.
With the amendments, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Aye.
Close enough.
Close enough to 7 o'clock, so we'll continue the public hearing for local law for 2013 to establish the Office of Single Appointed Assessor pursuant to Real Property Tax Law 328. So we'll open the floor for public comment.
Hi, I'd like to preface my remarks by saying I've been asked to read this. I have no understanding of this issue myself, so please don't ask me any questions when I'm done, because I won't be able to answer them. Anyway, Melody Moore wanted to be here tonight. She's, I believe, a representative to the Northern Duchess Alliance, and so I've been asked to read this letter that she has written to the town board. Dear members of the Rhinebeck Town Board, it is my understanding that the discussion will be continued at the town board meeting of December 9th regarding the creation of a local law to establish the office of a single appointed assessor for the town of Rhinebeck, including the village of Rhinebeck. In regards to this discussion, I would like to refer the board to the 2013 Northern Duchess Alliance Shared Services Study, a report prepared by the Alliance by Gerald Benjamin and Joshua Simmons of the New Paltz-based Center for Research, Regional Education, and Outreach. The purpose of the study was to identify collaborative and creative opportunities for achieving cost savings in the Northern Duchess region. Preliminary meetings with municipal leaders identifies 3 areas worthy of study. One of these seemed to be ripe for new approaches was the assessment function of local governments. The final report included detailed information and charts on how this function is currently being administered by the various municipal entities and offers alternative options. Among other things, the report revealed that in 2012, the total actual budget cost for assessment in the Northern Duchess Alliance region was $639,847.40. Included in that total is $83,177 spent by the town of Rhinebeck, the highest municipal cost among the 10 municipalities surveyed. The report was not intended to be prescriptive, but rather to suggest alternative approaches that might lead to cost savings for local governments. Based on the findings of the study, which I recommend to you for further study, it would seem that your examination of this issue is not only timely, but that your proposal has great merit and is consistent with the direction taken successfully by other communities. Thank you, Melody Moore.
Thank you, Michael.
Good evening. Thank you for the continuation of this public hearing. Jim Reardon, Mayor of the Village of Rhinebeck. Once again, I would like to kind of reinforce what I had mentioned the last time, and I think as an elected official, I know the challenges you folks face as financial responsibilities come. And I would say that the intent of this, I would hope, is to consolidate and to in fact, save some money, but the lack of information that's out there as to why this is being proposed is what's been of concern to me, to my board, and to members of the business community. And there's nothing available as to why this is being done. Nothing's been presented to the public. So again, I would urge that some information be forthcoming, be a description of why this is being done, and a business plan that actually is going to show the benefit to this. I know that I've received some information from Kate Long, not from the town board, about state initiatives when it comes to assessors and the benefit to it. And I've read some of it. I believe some of that is well intended. I believe some of it is subjective. There's no guarantees that the intent in this directive from the state actually is going to happen. A lot of it's going to be up to the person that's in the capacity of the assessor's job. And I would also say that I don't know if we should be using the state as a shining example of telling us how we should be conducting our business here in Rhinebeck. The recent comptroller's report pointed out that there are $460 million in overtime costs for the state this year, on pace to set a record at $600 million. So is the state really a shining example to Rhinebeck on how we should be operating? I don't really believe so. So, I would just urge you folks to make every bit of information you can available to the public, and, I think if you can sell a business plan to people, they'll be all over it. I know I certainly would if this is going to be a cost savings to the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hi, Jeff Romano, resident of the town of Rhinebeck. And I put some time and effort into going through some of the issues that Jim was talking about as far as the state. And there's some compelling reasons to go with the sole appointed. Mostly they're technical. So if you just give me a moment, I wanted to go over a few I think that are the most compelling. The first is members of elected boards of assessors must complete only a basic course of training. The continuing education program is not required, as it is with an appointed assessor. And that goes to, with the increasing complexity of real property tax assessment and the training required, it is difficult for elected officials to keep to current on all necessary training. Sole appointed have a higher degree of training and education. The second is appointed assessors have chosen his or her field as a career and thereby are professionals. For elected assessors, the position is often used as a stepping stone, meaning voters must be kept friendly. Third is elected assessors must run every 4 years and are not as insulated from political pressures as appointed assessors. Fourth is its overall savings to the town is more efficient, mileage, training, and administration. And fifth, I think a sole appointed assessor has a direct responsibility to the town board. Oversight, I think, is much needed. And this also removes any potential conflicts of interest. So I support the idea of going to a sole appointed assessor. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob Baberad. I sit on the Board of Assessment Review, which I've done for the last 7 years, and last year I was the chairman. Again, what Jim said, I just don't know the rationale why we are even looking at this. So if we can see some kind of a plan or some kind of a study that shows really how much we're going to save by doing this. Being on the Board of Assessment Review, I think we got 3 of the finest assessors that we could ask for. They're knowledgeable, they're local, they know the properties, they've been doing this for a number of years. And anytime we had a question, we go up to them and they have the answer right on hand. My biggest concern is that we're taking this out of the voters' hands and putting it in government's hands. And that is a concern of mine. In fact, I was talking to my son about the meeting tonight, and he said, "Well, that's getting rid of democracy, isn't it, Dad?" And I said, "Well, it somewhat is." Secondly, as an elected assessor, they have to meet residents' requirements, where an appointed doesn't. So we could have an assessor that really doesn't know this area, and that is a concern of mine also. A lot of questions I have. So as this appointed assessor, are we going to share this person with other communities, or are they going to be dedicated just for Rhinebeck? Is it going to be a full-time or part-time? And how many hours will they be working? How much is it going to be in the budget? Right now, for the 3 part-time assessors, just what we pay them is $30,500, and that's for the proposed budget. Is this going to go up? Is it going to go down? You know, we don't know the answers to that. So I just think there's a lot of questions that I have of why we're doing this, and if, you know, if the board could, you know, kind of put together a plan, you know, that would answer a lot of our questions. Thank you.
Dodd Crane Village resident. Just some observations. I do support the idea of a sole assessor. In my business experience, we provide assessment software to 40 municipalities in the southern tier of New York. Virtually none of them have multiple assessors. They have a single assessor and then a staff. They are, virtually all of them, I believe, are appointed. There may be one or two are elected. It's highly unusual, though. There are, in the tax receiver business, there tend to be some who are elected and some appointed, but assessors are almost uniformly appointed. Another trend that we're starting to see, we just were informed by the town of Oswego today that recently purchased our building planning zoning software that you're going to adopt this year. They decided just in the last couple of days to combine the assessor and the building department into one department. So you're seeing further consolidation, and one of the, not for this consideration, but maybe later on, the reason they do that is because the building inspectors, whenever a permit is issued, they have the right to enter the premises to assess what's going on inside the parcel, and an assessor doesn't have that unless they ask, and they can be refused entry. So it's, for some years, the building department has been giving feedback to the assessors on what's going on inside the house when they do inspections, and I think you might see at some point the practicality of combining the building department with the assessor's department for that very reason, so you can get full information on the parcel when you're trying to establish assessments or reestablish assessments. So I support the idea. I know of very few municipalities in New York State where there are multiple assessors. You may have more research on that, but I'm guessing there are 5 to 10 max. Thank you.
Don, did you say that was Oswego or?
Town of Oswego.
Oswego. Thanks.
Yep.
Bill Dowden, 90 Old Post Road, Rhinebeck. Dear Supervisor Trout, as a former Rhinebeck Town Supervisor and a citizen of the town of Rhinebeck, I have a concern about the decision to adopt a local law that would replace the 3 elected Board of Assessors with a single assessor appointed by the town board. I urge the town board to share with the citizens of Rhinebeck the details of your research and findings that influenced you to begin this action. Have you held discussions with the current elected assessors to identify your concerns leading up to this action? Are there any compliance issues concerning you with the Board of Assessors? The most recent property revaluation took effect July 1st, 2005, followed by annual updates. So the state of New York may expect another town-wide revaluation in the near future. An experienced Board of Assessors would be helpful following through with that process. I recently learned that a change to replace elected officials with appointed officials no longer requires a referendum and approval by a vote of the citizens. This major decision deserves full disclosure to the public and should be made by the next administration in 2014, after the facts and reasons can be made available for review in printed form and on the town website. Thank you for the opportunity to speak up and speak out about this proposed local law.
I'm Pete Sipperly. I was mayor of this village for 30 years, highway superintendent for 9, and I just was recently appointed by Governor Cuomo to a workers' compensation board in New York City at the ripe young age of 76. I'm the oldest person appointed by the governor to this board, and it'll be a fitting end to my public service. I've seen all these things come and go 100 times. In the first place, I dispute hotly any inference that these assessors are undertrained. They've done a damn good job over the years. Emery Ruger's been on the board for as long as I can remember, and all the other people that most of them have died or resigned or retired, but they've done an excellent job for this community. And to me, if you're going to make a change, I don't give a damn about local law. It should go out to a public referendum regardless of what the state says. If you don't put it out to public referendum, that's wrong. Now, darn it, these people are elected officials, and you're removing them from public office. And I don't give a damn what the state says. You should have it. It should be a public referendum. And I can't emphasize that any more than that. As I say, these guys have done a terrific job, and I support them 100%. Thank you.
I don't even know if I can talk into this thing. I'm not used to talking publicly. No, I'm not going to mess with it. But I have a few questions.
Could you tell us your name?
I'm sorry. My name is Barbara Ruger, and my husband is currently the assessor, and I live in Rhinebeck, and I care about Rhinebeck. And I care about the values that the citizens have of electing people who are going to be in powerful positions. And I think taking that away from the public is a huge mistake. I think it's a genie you're letting out of the bottle, and I don't think any of you realize there's no going back when this happens, and that the state will take control eventually, and you won't even have anybody who knows anything about the town that we live in doing your assessing.
Hello, Howie Trout, village resident and village board member. The last meeting I spoke, I was concerned, we don't know if this is going to be a full-time position with benefits. Currently, you have 3 assessors. I don't know how many hours they work and how many hours you propose that one assessor would work. So my point was, on the village board, 20% of our budget goes to employee benefits, which is uncontrollable. I know you guys have a hard time trying to get the budget. We spend many nights, we do, on the village board. So I tried to figure out how much percent your budget is for employee benefits, but you have them all over the place. I don't know if, Bruce, if you know how much percent?
Yeah, not off the top of my head.
Okay.
They're all over the place.
But anyway, my point is, if this becomes a position with benefits, it's just another spot where you're going to have uncontrol over the benefits. That's just my point. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen Hagstrom. I'm an attorney with Corbally, Gartland, and Rapelier, and I represent the town in the courtroom with respect to their tax certiorari matters. So I came to the meeting tonight in an attempt to help. I don't pretend to know all the details, but I can tell you from my perspective in the courtroom and dealing with the assessor's office, generally, you know, from our perspective in the courtroom, it really doesn't matter if you have 3 assessors or 1. In fact, we often end up just speaking with one contact person. In this case, normally I am dealing with either Donna, the assessor's aide, or Emery Ruger, who is the chair. I often don't even deal, I shouldn't say often, I don't deal at all with the other person. So there's some practical side to this, I guess, from that perspective. I'm not pushing one way or the other, but from the attorney's perspective, you're going to end up really dealing with one person anyway. There's also, I'm going to echo some of the remarks that were made, there's also an educational component to this, which provides that an appointed assessor has to have mandatory education, which currently is not in effect with the Board of Assessors. There are only a few towns left that have a Board of Assessors. I believe it's in Pine Plains, is that correct, Warren? Because you're the attorney there. And here, and also in Milan, yes. And again, in Milan, when I'm dealing, because I often deal with the cases from the other side as well, I'm normally just dealing with Scott Hobson, who is the chair in Milan. So I think that's kind of the practicality of how it ends up in any event. I think a lot of the remarks have already been made in preparation for tonight. I did speak with Victoria Costello, who is our Office of Real Property Services. She's our local representative from the state. She's been very helpful in the past when questions have arisen in the assessing area. Basically, what her response, the basic premise of all this happening is that assessing issues are getting more complex as they have to go with revaluations, updates of revaluations. There are more complex exemption issues and other issues, valuation issues, that as the years have gone by have become more and more complex. So the state's viewpoint is that it is better to consolidate that into one person, kind of you're getting more bang for your buck. I don't know if there will be a cost savings, that's obviously up to the board or how the budget works, but that if you're consolidating the salary into one person, that person really takes pride in what they do, they're getting paid well for what they do, and they're trained better for what they do to combat some of these issues that have gotten more complex as time has gone on and things have changed in society. So you've seen a trend statewide, as has been spoken about, of moving more towards one appointed assessor. I also spoke with, in preparation for tonight's meeting, with Joe McGowan from McCabe and Mack, who is the village, he's not the village attorney, but he's a partner with them, and he handles the tax certiorari matters for the village, and he and I routinely collaborate, as he did with my predecessor, Mr. Volkman, about the tax certiorari cases to give his input as well. It's good for two sets of eyes to be looking at the issues. He too kind of had the same practical sense that I did, that it really, and in particular with the village, it really doesn't impact whether there is a board of assessors or one assessor. So from the legal standpoint, as far as defending these cases in the courtroom, really we're dealing with one person anyway generally, and Emery does a fantastic job. I echo that remark. He is so knowledgeable, and so is Donna, that I've dealt with. And I don't want to speak for the board, but I think he would obviously be the first logical person to approach for this position with all of the knowledge that he has. So that being said, I just think it's really an issue of whether you think you're going to be getting a better delivery of service by not having things done not having three people go on inspection, having one person who has better education and is more centralized to do the job. Obviously it'd be great if you could save money too, but you also have to look at, are you getting a better quality? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Can I speak again? I have to say that I forgot a few of the concerns that I wanted to talk about. Now, the person who just spoke said she talked to somebody else. She had somebody else to talk to. That's important when you do assessing. The three assessors that are there, if they know you and they don't feel comfortable doing your assessment, they have somebody else to do it. They don't just do, it's just a conflict of interest with some people doing and assessing for just one person. And as far as the fact that you deal with one person, it may be one person you deal with because that's practical, but you're dealing with a combined effort and energies of three people. The three heads are better than one as far as I'm concerned. And I don't know who, would you have a board of one person? Would you feel comfortable with that? I wouldn't. I think you're taking the power right away from people. And I think December is a lousy time to have this meeting because a lot of people are busy with preparations for Christmas. I think that's awful. I'm sorry, but I really think it's awful.
Further comments?
Just another brief comment here, and I'll echo some of the things that the people in the audience have already stated, and I think when it comes to the responsibility of the assessment, that the three heads coming together sometimes probably serve a better purpose than one person does. Take your board, for example. We don't have one official that runs a town or one that runs a village. We have a board that does it. People come together and they make decisions together based on perhaps shared experiences, shared knowledge, and work together to accomplish these things. The educational component of it, again, you know, I understand you're saying that if the person is appointed, that there's more requirement for them to be educated. Is there a problem? Do we have assessors working for us now that aren't educated enough for the job? I have not heard anything negative about an assessor in this community yet. And they have the chance, if the people don't feel they're being treated fairly by the assessor, they have the opportunity to go to the Board of Assessment Review. You know, I've known these gentlemen for a number of years. You know, they're long-time residents. They have a feel for this community. My personal opinion, and it's my personal opinion only, is that they do an excellent job for us now. We're talking about 3 positions that are a total of $30,000, and we're talking about we're going to save some money. How much money are we going to save here? How many $1,000s are we talking about? If you're going to take this from 3 people and make it 1 person, how many extra hours does that 1 person have to work? So again, I mean, there's no business plan in front of anybody here. All anybody is hearing is that we're going to make a change. We're proposing a local law, and there's no explanation as to why this is needed, how much it's going to cost, and what the benefit is going to be. And, you know, for this to be coming to the table for a local law adoption in December of 2013, to me, just, it doesn't make any sense. And I would urge you to at least delay this and give us some answers, please. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a criticism. Is this the second hearing you've had on this matter?
Second open public hearing.
I normally watch your meetings on public television, but I wasn't aware that you had any hearing or that this was even being discussed. Fred Cartier and I met this morning, and he said to me, "Are you going to the hearing tonight?" I said, "What hearing?" He said, "The hearing on the assessors in Rhinebeck." And I said, "Well, it's all news to me, but this is news." Now, to me, I don't have internet and all that nonsense, but something should have been in the Observer at a minimum, because that is one of the best vehicles for getting information out today. There was nothing in the Journal, and there was nothing in the Observer either about any of this, which really is strange to me. So I just feel that the information was not put out at all. So I don't know who did it or where it was or anything about it, but I'm sorry, but that's my criticism. Thank you.
Better step it up, Jim. Any further comments? Please. Glad to see that the Observer and the Hudson Valley News are here, and there's we do have we're getting good exposure now just to answer my comment that I just made. So, all right. Happy to have you both here, though. Any further comments from the public on this? I don't know if we're going to continue this public hearing.
Let's keep it open till next.
Keep it open till at least the next meeting?
Yeah.
Are we retaining written comments in the meantime for this? So we'll open the door for also written comments to be submitted to the town clerk at any time here, and we will resume the open public hearing at least till the next meeting, December 23rd.
A written comment should come in before December 23rd.
Right. So,
Will we have information about what's are before then, or are we still going to be in the dark?
you know,
Written, you know.
yeah,
rationale.
right.
Yeah, a
Right.
whole business plan, a
Um, you know, I don't know.
what's going to happen.
Right. Well, as I can say, it is a local law for 2013, so I assume it's going to be voted on this month at this point in time, so we'll find out that at the next meeting, I guess. Yeah.
So the answer is we won't know anything, so we can't make our comments, so
Sure.
we're still in the dark.
Yeah, you can make more comments.
Yeah, but we don't have the information
Right.
to really see what's what.
Mhm.
Interesting.
So we'll move on to discussion items. Okay. So item 1 is a proposal for a 15% density bonus that recommended for the Open Space Affordable Housing Committee.
Let me try to set the table on this. There are members of the Affordable Housing Committee here. We have been talking, we meaning the Affordable Housing Committee, have been talking for, I guess, beginning in the fall of 2012 about a proposed local law dealing with affordable housing. And this is a carryover from the 2009 adoption of the comprehensive plan and zoning law. A chapter in that deals with affordable housing but provides that it's not effective until there's a new local law for the administration of affordable housing. And then it provides that the town board may enact by local law a bonus system. Let me explain. We have a draft law. We have presented it to the town board for discussion. So far, the only comments we've received deal with the density bonus. And with respect to that, the existing code states that the town board may enact by local law a bonus system in prescribed districts beyond the 10% base obligation. The density bonus shall be developed by the town board with due consideration of the recommendations of the Open Space and Affordable Housing Implementation Plan of 2007, and after consultation with the Affordable Housing Committee and the Planning Board. The density bonus shall be reviewed and, if necessary, amended by the town board on an annual basis. The committee, the Open Space and Affordable Housing Committee, started working on a draft law, as I said, in the fall of 2012. We've gone through probably close to 50 drafts of this. The law is necessary, we saw, in connection with the gardens, where there was a large project and we didn't have any implementing law. So that, in effect, we really did not have anything to hold the developers to provide for affordable housing. And as Tom has said on a number of occasions, they offered us something, some money to subsidize housing. We were certainly glad to get it, but they or other developers who come in the future don't have to offer anything because we don't have an operative law. And each day that goes by, there's a risk of other developers proposing projects, and we have nothing. Indeed, I read in the Observer that there are other proposals before the planning board. So there is nothing. So it really behooves us to move on this. Now, with respect to density bonuses, and the existing zoning law contemplates a density bonus. We can haggle over whether we have to do it, but it's clear on a reading of it that it is certainly contemplated by the persons who passed the existing zoning law and passed the comprehensive plan at the same time. So I think you got to read it together, that there would be a density bonus. The committee considered what would be an appropriate scheme, and unfortunately, when the comprehensive plan and the zoning law were done, it talked about density bonus, but it never really spelled out what the density bonus should be. So this is the first time that we're dealing with actually trying to implement a suggestion for a density bonus, although as I say, the law contemplates a density bonus. The committee initially came up with the idea of a 30% density bonus, so that if somebody could build 10 houses on a appropriate tract line under the existing scheme, they could build 13 units. And the committee also considered whether the developer must actually build the affordable or workforce housing units, or could pay money in lieu of building, which would go into a kitty, which could be used to either buy or build affordable housing. The committee felt that as a practical matter, that it was unlikely that with the upzoning that the 2009 did, which mandates large parcels to build on, that would be very unlikely for developers to build affordable units. So at least the committee thought that mandating the construction of affordable units was not the way to go, although it's certainly an option which the draft law would continue. But the committee is suggesting, with respect to raising money for workforce housing, that when a C of O is issued, that there be a fee of $1 a square foot for everything that would require a C of O, and that for a density bonus for those tracts that would qualify, it would be 3 times that. So it would be $4 a square foot, and the developer of that tract would pay that to get 30% extra units. The committee at that time did not have a build-out analysis, so the committee did not know what the 30% would amount to in terms of number of units. And the town retained the a planner who worked with the 2009 zoning law and plan, Ted Fink, to do a build-out analysis using the 30%. And it turned out that the 30% would amount to a conceivable build-out of 272 units. Again, it's a theoretical, it's a possible build-out, but it's quite unlikely that actually every parcel would take advantage of this, and that it would be construction of 272 units. But the committee, when it got the build-out analysis, reconsidered and thought even the possibility of 270 units would be too much, given the plan of the zoning law, which is to keep the town rural. And that the committee asked that Ted would consider how many units would be built if we did a 25% build out. How much would be built if we did 20%, 15, and 10. And after considering the numbers, the committee's thinking is that the appropriate density bonus should be 15%, which would be a theoretical build-out of 136 units. And at least the committee feels that that would not eviscerate the scheme of the master plan, the zoning law, to keep the town rural, and especially since there would be cluster building, that as a practical matter, the 15% extra units would not detract. With the, assuming that the 132 units are built, all of them, which, as I say, won't happen, but some probably will be built. And assuming the average size of a home that would be built on a large tract of land is about 5,000 square feet, and I'm told that it's probably larger than 5,000 square feet. The amount per unit for this fee would be $20,000 per unit, totaling $2,720,000, which, assuming everybody paid the money and there was a build-out, would be available for workforce housing. And this would be in addition to the $1 a square foot that everyone would pay when they get a C of O. Now, let me emphasize that the $1 a square foot, the $3 a square foot, that can be changed. The 15% can be changed either up or down. Indeed, as I said before, the zoning law contemplates that this would be looked at every year. Doesn't have to be. But we have to start someplace. And at least the committee's feeling was that this would be an appropriate place to start. And I put it on the agenda to really start the discussion, assuming that the board is comfortable with the suggestion from the committee. The next step would be to actually do a CEQA analysis, but we need some real numbers to do that. We have to know whether it's going to be 15%, 20% at all. So with that, let me open it up for discussion, first among board members as to, and then we do have members of the committee, and we do have at least a good attendance by town board standards here this evening. Oh, are there any questions that people have?
Two questions. The density bonus would be applicable to only single-family homes or attached family homes or condos as well?
It would be by unit, so that would be a condo, you can add extra
Applicable
units.
to any type of housing?
Yes, yes. But it's residential only.
Limitations in different districts in terms of the type of housing that can get built. There's a prohibition against attached housing in some districts.
Of course, but my question was, the fees will be levied on all types of housing.
Yeah.
Right, right. And the other provision is that you couldn't get the density bonus if it would violate some other part of the zoning law other than density.
And the other question I have is, how is I know it's very new, but has interest in the existing workforce housing that we have available picked up at all yet?
I can't answer that because I haven't checked with Hudson River Housing. I know that we are going out to the various churches to explain the program. And we are planning to run a couple of ads in January. The ads have been prepared, but we thought right before Christmas is not a good time.
And also, if you write something generic about the program that doesn't sell a specific project, we could run it, ad nauseum on our own website.
Well, we're trying to do a link, as you know, with the town website. It's a little bit hard to do it totally generic because the only thing that we have for sale is units in a particular thing. But, at some point, if we actually pass something, we'll build up a kitty, and then the program could be advertised totally.
Yeah, I think even just making people aware of the program is the first step, that people who live and work in Rhinebeck acquire points. If you're a teacher, if you're a firefighter.
Or who want to move to Rhinebeck.
Depending on, you get more points depending on what your community involvement is and certainly your income counts. So there is opportunity for people who may not be able to afford a house to get assistance to buy a house if they're going to be living and working here in Rhinebeck.
What's the base cost for the smallest affordable housing?
Well, at this particular project, the smallest unit would go for $190,000, and I think the market price that they're asking and selling if you went in without the subsidies, about $100,000 more at this point.
So, I think just keep building awareness about the program, and I know you're doing it, and it's difficult, and, thank you, it's a lot of work.
Right, I think one of the problems is that it is a condominium, that the largest unit is 2 bedrooms, so that would not accommodate a large family.
No, but it's I guess that I'm, when we first started talking about this, we were talking about a 30% density bonus, and that didn't sit well. So this seems, I'm aware that it's in the comprehensive plan, that the comprehensive plan allows us to give density bonuses. And I'm aware that we're doing it to fund a worthwhile project. I guess I need to really look at the build-out analysis and read this to get comfortable with it. And then
Allow us or direct us?
Well, it uses the word, I think, may or...
not should or must, but may.
On the
yeah.
other hand, I think it's really all over the section that we're looking at. And Tom and Bruce and Dodd were the people who are responsible, so to speak, for it. And my understanding from them that it certainly was contemplated that there would be density bonuses. And let me emphasize another point. Although,
Joe,
the committee says...
Let me say, these are, I mean, you're
Yeah.
right. These are concepts that were developed during the comp plan. It's a blueprint. It's a blueprint that reflects the community's vision over years and years of committee meetings and consultants and so on. And you're finally getting to a point where we're finding out what it means. So this density, what you're finding out now, you're getting to the details of what it means, what it's worth for our community. It's something that it's not something that says must, but it's something that, we got to work towards. But where you're at now, you're finally getting to a point after all these years to find out the importance of what we need for both density and for preservation of the community. So to put it, kind of more, it's more of a vague description than specific, but that's what it means for us. So rather than continue to describe, why or what, I mean, this is where we are. We've hit a point where the committee's decided on this, right? And we made some decisions, so it's time to move on, I think. I don't know where to go with this other than that.
And let me emphasize this concept of $3 a square foot on top of the $1. That can be changed either now or a year from now. Nothing is written in stone with exactly what the appropriate percentage is, and it will be developed over time. If the first suggestion doesn't work, it could be amended. Indeed, the fees should be looked at annually, every 2 years, periodically, to see if we're getting to our aim. Affordable housing is something that a community is required to have. Constitution says you can't exclude people, and the courts have said you have to encourage affordable housing. And
So
that is an aim of the comprehensive plan. We, the drafters of that and the board that passed it, thought there was a value in a diverse community, which I think was the correct decision.
So we need a local law to support this.
Yeah.
That's where we go from here,
Local
right?
law.
Okay. So will that come next meeting or afterwards? Or?
Yeah, well, I was just wondering if anybody, public has any thoughts about it. The next step would be at our next meeting. I think I will have Ted Fink here to talk about what the steps would be to implement a law, that we are going to need a CEQA review of it, and what that would entail, and what the cost will be.
All right, timber harvesting fee. Or any comments on it? Sorry, public comments on it?
Michael Trimble, Town of Rhinebeck. I know I've spoken on this before. I know that this is going to come to the planning board for recommendation before the town board can act on it. The problem I've always had with density bonuses is that when the comprehensive plan was developed and the density was determined for the different zoning districts, the upzoning, we were all told this was required to achieve the goals of the comprehensive plan. If we now find that additional density could indeed still achieve those goals, I don't understand why we're not giving it back to the residents of this community from whom we took it in the first place. A great many of the town residents now find their properties are non-conforming due to the upzoning. Plans they may have had to share their property with their children, they can't do it anymore. The whole concept of density bonuses basically goes to developers who are going to come into this community from outside the community, purchase pieces of property, and for a price, they can buy the density that the local residents had taken away from them. I think of one example in the last 30 years when someone who had been living here actually had a fairly large development. Everyone else, to my knowledge, has come in from outside the community. The people of this town, this village, have done a brilliant job making this an attractive place for builders to come. They don't need density bonuses to do it. They can do it for what we're willing to give them, that we give every other resident of this community. I think if greater density is permitted in our community, it should be given back to the residents, the taxpayers, the citizens of this community.
Michael, let me ask you a question. Why is it in the comp plan then? Why does the comp plan allow for this density bonus?
It's in there as a may, as one of the tools we could use. Another problem I have with the affordable housing law is who is better equipped to build affordable housing than a developer developing a development. The town of Rhinebeck, you may create a huge kitty of money. Is the town of Rhinebeck going into the housing business?
No.
Are we going to create a housing department? Are we going to be building? Are we going to be landlords if there are apartments built? None of that's being developed in this law, and at least until you have those tools in there, I think it's rather premature to start talking about let's raise a lot. All I hear is raising money, raising money. Money's important. You need it for affordable housing. But unless you have a way to deliver affordable housing, I believe you're coming up with a false premise and a false promise. And I don't see that implementation strategy here. I don't want to see the town of Rhinebeck, like the city of New York, having a building and housing development department where we build houses, we maintain houses, we rent houses. We don't really need that level of involvement in this project.
So you
We
rather
can't do it.
You rather see the developers providing this
Just as
affordable
done at the
housing
gardens.
without a density bonus.
Absolutely.
Here's
And that's a
your-
very worthwhile thing to do. We do have a number of projects coming before the planning board where these developers are perfectly capable, just as Kirchhoff did a brilliant job at the gardens, and I would like to emphasize they offered affordable housing. The town did not approach them. They came to us and said, we'd like to do this for your
And
community.
did they get a density bonus?
No, they did not, and they did not ask for one.
So, Michael, let me just interject. So if you were on the town board at the time they adopted the comprehensive plan, you would have stricken out the density bonus provisions?
I would have asked the town board to strike it out on
Yes.
one vote.
If you had been a member of it.
If I had
you
been a
would have
member.
voted against it.
Would you have traded Robinson Cano to the Mariners?
Would you have what?
Any team that offers a 10-year contract to anyone in Major League Baseball is insane.
Thank you very much.
I'm Jonathan Mensch. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Affordable Housing Committee. And I just want to draw a quick distinction between what Michael described with the gardens and what we're looking at in a lot of these places. And a lot of what we struggled with as a committee was how to marry the idea of open space preservation and very low density development with an economically feasible way to develop affordable housing. And the gardens is based on what, maybe third of an acre zoning? I mean, we're looking at situations in which you get a 10 and 20 acre zoning. So something like the gardens would never be allowed. You could take advantage of a 10-time density bonus in most of these districts to get to what is in the gardens. So to say that the gardens didn't need a density bonus to be achievable is completely ignoring the zoning that's in place for the rest of the town. And so what we're coming up with really represents a long and very concerted effort to try to marry these two things. And it was the topic of much debate, much analysis, and much research to get there.
How many parcels do you think it is, Jonathan, that we're talking about?
That's all in Ted Fink's report.
It's right here.
Yeah, it breaks down, and actually more of it, I mean, the most of it's in the 5 acre. Of those 136 new potential units, and to reemphasize Joe's point, this assumes that every single parcel that would be eligible for this program would be fully developed. So the odds of this happening are really, almost non-existent. But of those, I think it's 90-something that would be in the 5-acre, just a handful in the 20-acre, and, somewhere like 20 in the 10-acre. Yeah, so it's not, I mean, that's sort of the spread between those two. And we took a look at the build-out analysis, too, and we had the same concerns about a situation that sort of overwhelmed, or somehow, not overwhelmed, but more flew in the face of the idea of rural preservation. And when we looked at what the total build-out was at 30%, we made the decision that we should try to cut that in half. And part of it was, to sort of go into some of these same points, are that we were looking at large parcels in part because they could be master planned. And the density or the housing could be clustered in an area in which it was not, people wouldn't be so aware of it publicly. The flip side of that is it's very expensive to try to build that way. You've got to bring infrastructure way back to a different section of the property, and we're talking about very low density to begin with. And we're also talking about zoning laws in which most of the remaining acreage is mandated to be kept open. So we've got a situation where by allowing some of these to take place, we can build sort of the coffers to do some of these things, but also help create some economic feasibility around some situations that can be almost impossible to make any kind of sense of, given the nature of the zoning and the requirements that the zoning has in it. And I understand where Michael's coming from about a concern in terms of creating a housing department. What we have done at this point is we've really outsourced this to Hudson River Housing, and as a committee, our intention, or the way we've been looking at it, is that this could be a vehicle to provide, to buy existing housing. And that existing, rather than we wouldn't try to set off on a building program. I don't think we're equipped to deal with that. I don't think we as a committee would certainly want to take it on. But we do see an opportunity to buy existing housing, particularly rental housing, and use that as a resource that people could take advantage of. So that's more how we're looking at it.
And you see the continuing to outsource the management of this?
Yeah. Definitely. And I wouldn't say that it's, we've had some questions with Hudson River Housing as things have unfolded a little bit, and we're going to work through those issues. But by and large, this kind of structure makes a lot more sense than trying to do anything internally. And they get compensated by a very small percentage of the units that are sold under the program. So the town's not coming out of pocket. It's paid for by itself as it goes on.
Let me emphasize, the build-out analysis is a public document. It is available from the town clerk. Anybody who wants to look at it can get a copy.
Yeah, and honestly, to just go back to the other point, and I do, the challenge as we've looked at the underlying economics of some of this is to try to say to somebody, we're going to take half the density away, and we're going to pass a zoning code that really puts a lot of pressure on the way development can happen and adds a lot of cost to that. Oh, and on top of that, you should build this affordable housing. It started to feel like that whole package was just not economically feasible, and we didn't want to go and push to pass a law that nobody could possibly comply with. We just didn't see the value in that. Instead, we saw the value in creating a law that we thought was easy to understand and would be easy to administer. $1 a square foot, $3 a square foot, it's pretty basic.
I don't think, Dad, maybe you could remember, or Tom, I don't think we ever envisioned charging an individual who's building a house anything for this. I think it was always a developer doing a massive subdivision, and we said, you cluster, and then if you were going to put affordable housing in, we'll give you a bonus for that. I think that was the intent back then. Dad, does that make any sense?
Well, that's what we're doing now, right?
No, now we're spreading the money around, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, what we tried to do was create because there's not a lot of big developments that go on.
Yeah,
and
but
what we wanted to do as a committee, just to be clear, was
Units bonus for additional cost.
Right, but now anybody who builds a house is going to get hit with a fee.
It's true.
And that isn't what we envisioned way back when.
And anybody who builds a house, like smaller landowners who who used to maybe be in a 10-acre zoning or a 5-acre zone and are now in a 10-acre zone, don't have the benefit of a density bonus, but they have to pay a fee. So there seems like there's a slight loss of parity between a small landowner or a homeowner who could have maybe subdivided and a larger landowner. That's a concern to me, the loss of
Yeah.
parity.
That's it. And I mean, the discussions, and they were a long time ago, Jonathan, you're much fresher on this than I am, was how do we incent developers of large projects to do affordable housing? That was what we were trying to do. We also had 159 units that we thought we needed in Rhinebeck at the time, based on the county planning or the regional planning thing.
What do you mean 159 new?
159 more units in Rhinebeck
Were-
than we have now, or we had at the time in 2009.
You mean affordable units?
No, units, period. People needed more bedrooms to live in based on the growth we were going to have, and it was a percentage of that was going to be needed to be affordable. And it was based not on build-out, it was based on population growth, projected population growth. And so the 132 or whatever you came up with makes sense, but I haven't read the whole thing twice. So I don't know if that goes with the projection for the population growth or not. But again, I don't think we ever said if Elizabeth wants to build a house, she should be paying $1 a foot for affordable housing.
Yeah, well, it goes to, I guess, then a fundamental question, which is how much does the town want to have affordable housing? I mean, as a committee, I can say that we looked at it and we said the way that we're actually going to create something meaningful, we're not going to get there by looking to large developments that frankly almost never happen. We're going to get there by creating a mechanism through which people that are doing, any kind of building contribute something. Mm-hmm. Not a huge amount, but they contribute something. We then looked at the density bonus as a vehicle to generate more funds on top of that. So the idea
and I would be happy to charge for a density bonus.
Yeah.
But I'm not happy charging for somebody building a house on a little lot someplace.
That's a question of how much you want affordable housing. If you just increase the density bonus, you'll get some more money, but how many big developments are we going to have with these? Who knows? At least the committee, at least when I got on as liaison to the committee, the thinking was if you really want to have a commitment and raise money to buy affordable units that you could rent out, which is probably the way the program will have to work, that you need a broad base of getting money. Now, as I said, the amount of the fee can be changed.
Let's go back to Bruce's point, because I agree. It almost seems like we're taking someone who needs affordable housing, the single land, someone who's building their own little home, and charging them to fund a program that maybe they should be benefiting from. We're asking, it seems like a hard burden to put on someone who maybe is subdividing her land in half to build, give to a family to pay into this affordable housing.
Elizabeth, in the draft law, there is a provision saying that the fee is not charged if the unit is below a certain number of square feet. I don't remember what the number is offhand. And this part of it hasn't been focused on.
All right, well,
People are uncomfortable about that square footage could be raised. But there is something where we didn't want to charge somebody who was building what we would consider to be an affordable unit.
Or a single home builder.
Well, a single home builder could be building a $5 million house, or he could be building a $100,000 house. That at least the thought was the person who was building the $5 million house ought to be charged.
But aren't they going to pay more taxes?
Pardon me?
Aren't they going to pay more taxes?
They are, but
they
that
gonna
may not
require additional
necessarily
services?
go to affordable housing.
Are they going to require additional services for their $5 million house?
I don't know.
Probably not. So you've got extra money, so if you work the budget that way, that's how you can get your pot on the individual houses. That's how you build up the ante. Again, I'm just restating what I remember.
Yeah,
Our
no,
motivation.
it's a tricky thing, and we
Yeah, I know it is.
really did try to take a step back and
done
say,
a lot- you've done a
how
lot
are
of
houses
work.
actually built here? And we then said, well, if we're creating a program that is, and that was a lot of the disconnect, when we looked at all of these comps, and they're not comps, I mean, they're examples in different municipalities, this was much higher density stuff. I mean, what development was happening at larger scales, on larger, just apartment buildings, and we're like, this is not what's happening here. So if we're trying to look at something that actually matches how things are working in this community, it seemed that creating a structure in which there was some kind of a contribution made by people that were doing the vast majority of what was happening. That was a positive, and that we looked at then the density bonus as a way to create additional revenue on top of that. Where the way these numbers work is something that we certainly can discuss. I mean, a buck a foot was easy when we were looking, and there's a certain graduated sort of element to that. If someone's building a bigger house, they're going to pay more. If someone's building a smaller house, they're going to pay less. It's a buck a foot depending on how big you go, and we like that notionally. If the committee felt that a different number was more appropriate, then we would, or the board, I'm sorry, we would certainly, think about that as a committee. We were trying to mostly what we've been trying to work on is to create a framework that can work moving forward. And then as things develop, there's always the ability to change whether buck a foot should be $1.50 a foot, whether a buck a foot should be 75 cents a foot, whether a density bonus shouldn't be $3 a foot on top of that, maybe a density bonus should be $5 a foot, and we're seeing that it still makes sense. We were trying to pick numbers that seemed reasonable given the circumstances. And, so if someone's building a 2,500 square foot house, then that's a $2,500 commitment to the Affordable Housing Fund. Obviously, if someone's building an 8,000 square foot house, that's $8,000. And that just to us seemed like a place that could be, that people could sort of stomach. And there was an idea also of, if this is something that's a benefit to the community contributing to it. There was a little bit too much, we thought of a mentality of, here's all these things that everyone says they want, but nobody wants to pay for them. Well, at a certain point, things cost money. And if we want to have these things, we got to create a mechanism in which contributions are made towards them happening. That was our rationale. I mean, people may disagree with our rationale. I'm just trying to explain where we were coming from.
Well, we'll read the.
Thanks a lot, John.
Oh, sure.
Read the build-out analysis.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure.
Same topic?
Todd Crane, same topic, village resident. I agree with Bruce, we never considered. Wow. The original, yeah, it's a first, make sure it's on the tape. We never considered charging on individual building permits based on some kind of rated basis. I have questions in my mind about that, but I have a few comments before I get to that. The first point is that the comprehensive plan was a significant upzoning from the old zoning, and our legal advice from two attorneys was we needed to create significant opportunities for multifamily or affordable housing in the plan in order to make the entire comprehensive plan. First of all, from my point of view, it was a values issue. You need to do this as a community because our community's gotten too expensive for even local people who have kids to move into. We need to do it from a value systems point of view, but also it was a legal, if you want to call it a bulwark, against lawsuits, one of which is still open. So if you're asking why is that in there, it's in there because we thought it was the right thing to do, but it's also it gives you some protection from certain legal issues that I won't go into here because they're part of an ongoing lawsuit that the town is subject to. So that's why affordable housing is there in the first place. Second thought is, I hear it's certainly going to be hard and it might cost money to do it. That's not a reason not to try to do it. And I think that it's been discussed before, even when we were discussing it and trying to finalize it and couldn't before we finished the plan, that offloading a lot of the administration to another organization is certainly the way to solve some of the administrative problems. I would, if you want to study the idea of putting the costs per, I missed this whole part somehow, and I apologize. Was that the $3 per square foot for everybody? Was that the?
No.
No,
That
what
would be
was-
just for the density bonus.
That's what I thought. What was the rate, how was the rate working on each permit?
$1.
$1.
That was $1, okay, sorry, I missed that.
And you don't pay if it's below a certain square footage.
Right, so to figure out, I'm sympathetic to the argument that says, why should everybody have to pay for that on the one hand, but on the other hand, there are many communities who tack fees onto their building permits and their COs for new people coming into town for rec purposes is the one I've seen done the most. So it's not out of the norm to cost out new construction with additional fees to support things that are going on in town. Rec is the primary one. Affordable housing can certainly be another candidate. So it's not unusual for a town to be doing that. So I wouldn't discard it just on those grounds. So what I would suggest you do is go back and look at it's tough, you might have to go back 10 years because I don't know what the construction rate here is now, but it's still, I think, fairly low. You could go back over the last 5 to 10 years, look at the building permit, what kind of permits you're getting. Are they mainly additions? Is it new construction? And is it really that you're penalizing the small homeowner that's trying to do a small addition? Or would you be primarily hitting new people that are building McMansions? Look at what the data says in terms of what the impact of a per permit rate would be to see if you're really impacting.
I just think the
Yeah.
data's kind of skewed on that. We're just coming out of a huge housing slump.
It's a problem.
And, we do have several large developments, coming before us.
You can play with whether maybe if the scale of the construction is over a certain number, then they get the charge, but if it isn't, they don't. And that would
Or if it's
protect the
over
smaller
a certain
homeowner.
number, if you're building 50 houses, maybe you have to build on your big, development. You have to build there and provide X amount of units.
Well,
of
I think the affordable housing, as I understand it from talking to Joe and Jonathan over the last few years, is that it's tough. The developers are probably not going to opt for that. They just won't go for the density. And then you'll never get any affordable housing. Whereas if you make the funding, it's my understanding that
Yeah, that's the problem, that where you have a 10-acre zone, nobody is going to build on that a house that has to sell for $200,000.
Well, but could we give them could we give them a waiver, a variance to provide affordable housing within that
And
zone?
actually have them construct it?
Yeah.
I think the problem is to sell it at $200,000 and to have a house that is built for $200,000 is going to be so out of character with the other units that are going to be built on this 100-acre plot that the thought was no developer would do it. They just wouldn't build it, so that you would get nothing out of it. And the way to get something out of it is to charge for the units.
plus the clustering, there's a clustering piece of the zoning that forces the buildings to be put together more in the same location. So having a $150,000 or $200,000 unit next to $10 million units, it's a disincentive to the developer to do that. And so I kind of accept the argument at this point. They'd rather pay the money and have the town solve the problem somewhere else. I'm not wild about that argument, but I think as a practical matter, that's what we're faced with. That the developer will look at the solution where he has to put a bunch of lesser cost units in that clustered location and say, heck, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to build the units I can get without doing affordable. It's just that's business. I would, so last thought is that I would even support going from 15 to 20%. I tried to do the numbers. It's probably 170 units or something like that for 170, 180. You're never going to get.
Say that again, Dodd. You would support.
I'm saying I would go to 20% rather than 15% on the bonus, particularly if you have, well, there are 2 points. Number one, the town did a significant upzoning. The impact of the additional units that are actually going to be built, you're never going to notice it. It's across the open acreage we have here with clustering, you'll never know they were built. It's.
We have traffic from them?
Pardon me? On a basis of 4,000 parcels or 3,500 parcels, you just won't notice another 80 to 100. If you take the 20% bonus, which I'm guessing is in 170.
It's 182.
182, that's what
136.
So 182, you're never going to get 182. You probably get half of that. So you get 90 units spread across the, I don't know, what is it? 3,000 or 4,000 acres that are still left to be constructed. I don't remember the number. Pardon me?
Could you speak on the mic? It's hard to record it.
So I spread across the whole town is, I don't think the impact is that significant at all. And it was certainly within the numbers that we, as I recall, that we anticipated when we did the original affordable housing projections on top of the original build-out. Having another 100 or 90 or 100 units across the whole town was something we all pretty much signed off on, or whatever the number was. It was probably 150 or 200 at the time. I think you guys are, do you remember?
159?
Was that the old Post Road one?
No, it was all over the place.
Yeah, I was thinking it was spread all over the place. So given the way we've upzoned, I don't see any problem with.
Can you speak to the loss of parity between a large landowner and a smaller landowner who won't have the opportunity to get a density bonus? Does that concern you?
No, because the smaller landowner. Well, my reaction to that was that the smaller landowner is going to be somebody who's in the 5-acre district who already owns 5, 10, or 15 acres, or maybe 1 acre.
And they were upzoned to 10 acres.
No. Oh, you're talking about somebody over. Well, there's not much of that in the 10-acre zone. Most of that's all on the east side of Route 9. Almost all that land, the bulk of all that land is owned by 4 or 5 people.
Well, I'm talking about people who maybe were in the 5-acre zone, had 10, 11, 12 acres, now can't subdivide because they're in a 10-acre zone.
I'm saying that we could debate it, but we could have Ted look at that. I think that number is very low. I think that the parcels that existed of that size that are currently in the 10-acre zone already existed. And then other than that, if you look at the maps, there are 4 or 5 large landowners in that whole region that own most of the land that's going to be developed. And you might come up with 5 or 10 people now who might be subject to that. I don't think it's that many. I'm much more concerned about the people in the 5-acre zone that used to be 1-acre, 3-acre zoning. Those are the folks that might be much more significantly impacted than anybody who's left who got upzoned in the 10-acre zone, into the 10-acre zone. But, we don't know the answer to that tonight. That's something Ted Fink could tell you if you're concerned about that issue. I would say the issue would be much more on the east side of Route 9, which is where all the...
Well, regardless of where it is, the loss of parity does exist. If we're giving larger landowners, and I haven't...
Well, parity of what?
Of development rights or...
Well, the problem we're trying to solve here is affordable housing. We're not trying to solve the development rights of a large landowner or a small landowner. We're trying to solve the problem of funding affordable housing. So that's why I raise concerns about the per building permit cost of any individual having to pay for that problem, because that is impacting the smaller landowner. But I don't, it's always been part of the premise of affordable housing. The density bonus only occurred in larger parcels where the housing units could be absorbed and not be out of place or look inappropriate or cause other problems.
You're trying to really solve for two things. You're trying to solve for open space and affordable housing. And for those people who are in 5-acre zones, which is the whole east part of the town, I don't know how you give them the benefit of a density bonus without destroying the whole concept of 5-acre zoning, which was, I think that's, you got to take as a given. That is the comprehensive plan to have most of the town a minimum of 5 acres, and it was upheld in the, it's really both lawsuits, Dodd, both lawsuits. The town has won both lawsuits. Both
Well, the second one settled?
Yeah,
Yes.
over.
Oh, okay.
We won both. We got summary
Missed that.
judgment in both
We're
lawsuits.
good.
So
Good.
the
Good for a
comprehensive
while.
plan has been upheld, but you've eviscerated the whole comprehensive plan and the zoning if you say that parity has to be that everybody gets a density bonus. Indeed, zoning, the whole, a result of zoning is not parity for everybody. Some people live in a 10-acre zone. Some people live in a 5-acre zone. Why shouldn't everybody be subject to either 10 acres or 5 acres? That's a given. That's the nature of zoning, and you're making those policy decisions.
Well, let's move on and continue this then. Okay. Let's go on to the timber harvesting fee. And
We've
that's
had a few requests for timber harvesting, and we're one of the few surrounding communities that doesn't have an established fee. So I asked Mike Trimble to look into it, and John Lyons and Jeff Romano, and we came up with a proposal as a one-time fee. And they also, by law, I believe, have to have a forester, a certified forester, approve the cutting. They can choose who they go with on that. We do think it's important that they have something in escrow in case roads are damaged, and we would have to have our highway superintendent sign off on that after, because of the heavy use and the weight coming onto our roads that we maintain. That is a consideration. We do have two outstanding things that I think it's important. They've been waiting a long time, and we need to kind of take action when we can. I don't really have anything more to say about it than that.
But we are drafting a proposal of a
Yes.
local law. We'll
Yeah.
review it and have public comment on it.
all right. Any further on that?
And then no, nothing further on that, sorry.
You have something else there?
I do, and I should have done it when I was talking about liaison. There are two things happening in the zoning office as the zoning liaison. One is Dave Baldoff may be staying on for a little while, but ultimately we're going to need, there's going to be an opening on the Zoning Board of Appeals, so anyone wants to consider that, that will be an important position. And we are going to be posting for the position of the zoning enforcement officer to be filled in the new year.
All right. I see Mr. Tyner's here for, not on the agenda, but ready to speak. But let me just apologize to those who came here for the hearing for the assessors. It's a hearing, so it's really not a time that we engage back and forth with the public on their comments. But so I don't want to sound like we're kind of like shutting down on the idea of engaging with you guys, but it is a public hearing, and it's our time to hear comments from you guys, whether we're for it or against it, no matter what side we take on this. So At the point of time when we make a motion on the concept, on the law, we have the opportunity to make comments on it to support or to oppose the law. So I don't want to sound like we're being disrespectful by not saying anything. That's just what I wanted to say to you guys. So Joel, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. First wanted to apologize. Some of you may have missed me the past couple months. I've tried to be here. The county legislature full board meeting is usually the second Monday when you guys meet. December, it's a little bit different, the reason why I'm here tonight. I've been sort of trying to build political will and support and coalition to sort of slay the dragon of the overhead power lines going through the eastern part of the county. And so for a couple months in a row, I stupidly hosted meetings the fourth Monday, and I thought they'd be done, started them at 5 or 5:30. They went on 3 or 4 hours, so I'm here. The county budget has been passed, but the county executive was speaking to a couple reporters that he may be vetoing a couple things. I was actually able to get some bipartisan support added to the county budget. As far as you may have seen some stuff in the media about homeless people being turned away recently. Hudson River Housing doesn't have enough funding right now from county, state, federal sources. We've had veterans testifying at county legislature meetings about being turned away from shelter. So I was sort of surprising and shocking. I didn't think this was going to happen. But last Thursday night, I actually got my caucus plus many of the other side to vote for just to add $10,000 for the county budget for 2014 for Hudson River Housing. Also, there used to be the Cornell Cooperative Extension Green Team Community Gardening Program for City of Poughkeepsie Youth. I got $20,000 added to the county budget for 2014. That was bipartisan. A lot of the other side, my caucus as well. The county executive was telling some of the reporters that he just may exercise a line item veto power. So I'm just sort of bringing this up now in front of all you folks. Lightning struck. I didn't expect for those two amendments to pass. Mr. Molinaro has until this Friday, roughly, to exercise that veto power. But I'm hoping, we're actually doing a gathering tomorrow, talking about sheltering the homeless. Dutchess County, home to Eleanor Roosevelt. Tomorrow is actually the 65th anniversary of the adoption of the UN General Assembly of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So we're having a Housing is a Human Right gathering tomorrow at 4:30, trying to get people in Dutchess County to reach out to the county executive at 486-2000. That's his office number, and county exec at dutchessny.gov, and to let that funding stand. It's just, frankly, it's also unsafe. I've heard recently that state parole violators, that it was assured that they were going to find shelter, and now it's not so certain. And that's not safe for anybody, and that's going to end up costing us a lot of money. Correct me if I'm wrong, I recently heard that the Dutchess County Association of Supervisors and Mayors, I believe, passed a resolution 11-1 that I sort of couldn't believe this, but I heard that it was an 11-1 resolution against the $7.8 million fuel tax, the home energy tax. And I tried to do what I could over the last month or two to build support to fight that. Again, the Criminal Justice Council report that came out last November said so many women in the county jail, so many mentally ill in the county jail, so many youth in the county jail. Can we try something else? Alternatives, transitional housing. July 22nd, Poughkeepsie Journal pointed out National Institute of Correction, state parole violators, instead of being incarcerated in the county jail for $300 a day, halfway houses for $65 a day. If you do the math, we're talking about $8, $9, $10 million a year, easy, we can save for taxpayers in Dutchess County. There was no reason for the $7.8 million fuel tax hit. You still have an opportunity to speak up on this. This coming Monday, the 16th of December at 6 p.m. on the 6th floor of the county office building is our sort of last opportunity, most likely this year, to hear your input. So that's this coming Monday, 6 p.m. That was the only thing I was going to say. The Poughkeepsie Journal, I finally realized on November 27th, put something online, sort of my take on the power lines, how we can save money with the boundless energy proposal, and different ways to save money with the county budget. The New York Times did an editorial just a couple days ago. I think it was Friday or Saturday, $7 billion a year taxpayers all over the country are subsidizing fast food corporations as far as the poverty wages. What does that have to do with Dutchess County? 7 years ago, Westchester County released a report that the taxpayers in Westchester are paying for Medicaid for workers to the tune of $10 to $34 million a year, because these people are working and their kids are living in working families, but they still need food stamps, Medicaid, housing, etc. And Dutchess County is about 1/3 the population of Westchester. We have McDonald's and Kmart and Walmart and Burger King and all that. We're spending about $7 million a year as Dutchess County taxpayers, fattening the wallets of Walmart and Kmart. And so another way to, a win-win solution is to have a living wage law that would not necessarily impact small businesses, but just for the Walmarts and the Kmarts and the Burger King and the McDonald's. And Washington, D.C. City Council passed that, the mayor vetoed it. That's all. The other thing is, it's the holiday season. The last thing that the local economy needs, the last thing that we in the county legislature need is less and less money, support from the federal government. Unfortunately, Republicans and Democrats have proposed massive cuts, whether it's $40 billion or $8 billion in cuts to the federal food stamp program, and a ton of people about to be thrown off the unemployment rolls, benefits. So there's a number for Congress, thanks to Bread for the World. It's 1-800-826-3688. That's 1-800-826-3688. The last thing I'll say is this. I think, talk about rights. I think being able to drink clean water is a right that we have as human beings, especially in Dutchess County in 2013. And MTBE contamination is just one tiny tip of the iceberg of groundwater contamination. MTBE, methyl tertiary butyl ether, poisonous carcinogenic gasoline additive, banned for being put into gasoline in January '04. 6 months later, it's found at the old Getty station at 9 and 9G. I bring this up because I'm the one guy who's sort of been filing the FOIA requests with the DEC and the health department in Dutchess County for the last decade. And there's an epic, massive cover-up going on. Yes?
What do we do if we, I'm a homeowner, I live in that area, I'm testing my drinking water, I have a UV filtration system and a reverse osmosis, but I'm concerned about this. What do I do if I find my water has this contamination in it?
I would call the biggest expert in the state. His name is Walter Hang. He grew up in Hyde Park. He worked for Hyde Park for 12 years. He struck out on his own, started his own firm. It's called Toxics Targeting. ToxicsTargeting.com. It's been quoted in the New York Times for the last decade or two. It's ToxicsTargeting.com, 1-800-2-TOXICS. The folks at Toxics Targeting will tell you that they're still finding MTBE all over. MTBE is a tiny little tip of the
If you
iceberg.
find it in your water, does the county have any responsibility to us? Are we on our own?
You know what the worst thing is? The worst thing is that the county does not seem to be warning people in the neighborhoods about it. And it goes back to November 2000. There was an article on the front page of the Hyde Park Townsman that the DEC and the EPA knew for years and years and years about several gas stations contaminating the groundwater in Hyde Park. But they didn't want to worry people because of property values. So nobody in neighborhoods were notified. It's happening now. The executive editor for the Poughkeepsie Journal, Stuart Shinsky, I was only able to attend the water forum a week or two ago for 5 minutes. I was ushered out the door because I pointed out that, unfortunately, the Poughkeepsie Journal is right there in with the Dutchess County Health Department. It is a massive cover-up. In Pleasant Valley and Stanford, all over the county, years and years and years after MTBE was banned from being put into gasoline, it's still being found. And I'll just say one more thing. 2 years ago, Dutchess County executive in February 2011 issued a report in his annual county departmental administrative summary that 198 water samples were taken all over the county. And 63% of the time, MTBE was not found. Now, the DEC, they care if it's 5 parts per billion more of MTBE. The Dutchess County Health Department, they only care if it's 10 parts per billion. Do the math. 100 take away 63 means that just 2 years ago, out of 198 water samples all over the county, 37% of the time, MTBE is found. Okay, it's not just this development in Beekman with radium in the water. Okay, it is massive. It is huge, and unfortunately, the Dutchess County Health Department and the Poughkeepsie Journal are covering up for it. I need some help in exposing this.
Thank you, Joel.
I think it causes curly hair.
Then I've caught it.
John, do we have a draft local law for this assessor's office thing, or is it just...
Sure.
There's a draft law? It's not here, though.
No.
Okay. All right. All right, so anything further? Mayor?
I'd just like to say I feel for you folks having to deal with this affordable housing law. You know, I think the barn door's open and the horse is long gone on that in Rhinebeck. I think affordable housing in Rhinebeck probably ended about 1980. You know, when you stop and think of the up zone to 5 acres and 10 acres and whatever, and think of the price of what an acre costs in Rhinebeck, anybody that can afford to buy the land can afford to build the house. And, you know, I think the only way you're going to do this is to assess this dollar per square foot fee and have an administration organization try and do something for you. It's a tough, tough problem. My hat's off to you trying to deal with it. I just wanted to touch base with you folks. I was here back in October about the police contract and the fire contract to find out what your status is as far as what you want to do about those. They both expire at the end of the month. And when I looked at your budget, I see in your budget you've only included $156,829 for the fire contract, and we requested $187,953, so there's a difference of $31,124 there. And if your intent is to sign the contracts by the end of the month.
Well, I'll sign it. I don't know that we've adjusted the, amended any of the budget for it, but apparently we get something to talk about.
We had a, can I speak to this? We had an executive attorney-client session before this board meeting, and we spoke about this.
You weren't able to be there, so you didn't hear this.
And I think that we'd like to meet to see if we can negotiate and come to an agreement.
Well, what I'm going to offer now is no, there is no negotiation.
I think we have to have a meeting with our attorney and you and your attorney and one or two of us from the board.
Well, what I will state to you now is that, you know, we did a 3-year analysis on fire call volumes.
I know, but we...
Let me finish. We did a 3-year analysis on fire call volumes, and we based our request for the contract on 3 years' worth of figures. We presented those figures to you, and you have not questioned us at anything as to how those figures are going to work. You did your budget. You never came to us and said anything to us, and now, at the 11th hour, you're coming to us and you want to negotiate. Let me finish. We are not going to ask our taxpayer to continue to subsidize the town fire contract, and that's our stance. Our request is for $187,953. The board has already approved for me to come here and say that.
Can I speak now?
Sure.
We were given this very late in our budget. You came to us very late in our budget process, I think. Late in October.
And I did hear that at a town board meeting, you were starting your budget process in September.
When did Heath come before us? It was late in the budget process.
It was about 3 weeks before we adopted, 3
And
4
we
weeks.
do have questions about your methodology and the reports from the call volume, which we've expressed to your liaison from the fire department, and I think it's something we need to speak to more.
Given the liaison questions about it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know we had a meeting with you, and you asked questions, and he provided you with information.
We have.
Right.
There have been no questions that have come back to us.
No, I don't know if questions have come back. What we said was, the sampling that we did, we disagreed with the
Methodology.
percentages. So we needed to look at more data.
And it was a very large increase. It was larger than the 4 years that I've served on the board.
It was a large increase because nobody had ever studied the fire department operations in the village of Rhinebeck prior to that. And we did a 3-year analysis, and that was the reason for our request, and we explained that when we were here in October.
We have questions about the methodology and the information, and we think it needs to be looked at, and I think we do need an intermunicipal meeting.
Questions for the village board?
We will.
We will, or you have?
We will. We just met with our attorney tonight, and I think we need a meeting, and we're looking into our options. Obviously, we'd like to come to an understanding.
I would suggest that happens quickly, because if the contract's not signed by December 31st, there is an issue. Because then our
Let me ask you
taxpayer is
something.
subsidizing the town fire contract.
That's not our point of view.
Okay.
Jim, we're short 31.1, you said? We're shy 31,100.
$31,124.
But Jim, I assume that you're not taking the position, you don't even want to talk because that would be a startling proposition for one government official to
The conversations that
take.
have happened prior to this.
We have been,
No outreach whatsoever from that board to the village of Rhinebeck. None whatsoever. Bruce had requested.
Could you come back to the microphone, please?
Certainly.
I believe, Tom, you're the liaison to the fire and the police?
There's been no outreach from the town board to the village board regarding the fire contract, other than that Bruce did meet with Heath. And Bruce had asked Heath for some record information, and from what I'm told, Heath met with Bruce, they were at the fire company, and he was provided with what he needed.
Yeah, was
From that
sent-
point on, there has been no feedback from the town board. We presented the contract, Heath came over here at last month's board meeting with that contract, and we still have not heard a word. So that's why I'm here tonight, asking what your intentions are. And now you're telling me that you just started talking to your attorney about this tonight. You know, I don't understand.
Just a brief comment. I mentioned earlier a town that had adopted the idea of combining assessor and the building department. The town I mentioned is incorrect. I have to go back and fact check that. I'll get back to you as soon as I know. Just the guy in the company. It's one of 2 other towns, but I have to check it.
Okay.
And I'll get back to you if you want to contact that. Thanks.
Got it.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion and second to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor, aye?
Aye.